Welcome to the Artist Academy podcast, a place where we focus on the business side of art to help you attract more customers, increase profits, to ultimately live a life of creativity and financial freedom. I'm your host, Andrea Earhart, and this week's episode, we're going to be talking about everybody's favorite topic, which is pricing and money. We are no strangers here on this podcast to talk how I'm pricing mural jobs, how guests are pricing their canvas work, how much money somebody's making, because really that's part of a big reason why we do what we do. Yes, sure, we get to be creatives and this is literally the best job in the world. But if we're not making money on this and we have to go get a side job or we have to do something else full time, it's just, you're not fully living this amazing creative life. And I know for myself, and for example, and I'm going to share a lot of examples on here of how I do this to myself, but I sometimes will cap myself, or I will attract customers who want to pay low dollar, basically. And I've shared this a lot. I grew up in a trailer. I am coming from bargain shopping history, right? I did not grow up in just looking for quality or thinking of things as an investment. I was like, how can we survive? We are just trying to make ends meet month to month. Let's do this. And I'm slowly coming out of it. And I'm looking back and I see and I cringe at some of the things that I had said when I was first starting out versus the language that I now know to use. But I still often have to remind myself to use it and to not attract those low paying customers. So I have made a whole list here of just words that attract a higher quality of customer and don't have people coming into your direct messages on Instagram or Facebook where you're promoting and saying, I saw your recent post. Can you do this for me for $100? Or how my budget is $500 or like people ghosting you because you tell them the price and they think, whoa, that's way more than I thought it was going to be. Oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed. I'm not going to respond to her now. We want to get rid of that slowly. And I want to preface this though with, it is totally fine in the beginning, especially when your art is not top quality. It's totally fine to not be promoting yourself as top quality, especially if you are not. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with starting out doing things for free here and there to gain practice. For free, not necessarily for people who can pay, but there's specific, maybe for like your mom or a special family member or a charity or a nonprofit, things like that. I think it's totally fine to build your portfolio and build up your skill and build up your clientele at first using some of these words that I'm going to say that quality artists don't use, because there are a lot of $500 jobs out there. Okay, I'm going to say that again. There are a lot of $500 jobs out there. And I think if you're an entry-level artist and you're just getting into it and you need the practice and you don't have anything else, I think it is totally fine. And in fact, I recommend you take those small jobs. And don't worry, because a lot of artists who come into this thinking, oh my gosh, there's people that are so good that have been doing this forever and I can't compare. They don't want the $500 jobs. Those are all for you. Those are all for the people who you haven't gotten your footing yet, keyword yet. It is totally fine for you to use some of these terms that I am saying not to use and to use them right now in order to pay your light bill, whatever. It's just, we're not above anything here. We're not above doing something for quote cheap as long as it's a customer who's really appreciative and really can't spend more than that. And growing up in a town of, I think our population was 300 and something, maybe. I don't know, it's been a while. But I mean, if I was an artist trying to make it there, in small town rural Missouri, it would be very tough for me to charge really premium prices. There would be about 1% of that population that could actually afford it. And so if you're in an area like that, for instance, and I always take reference on my personal experience in that, I think it is totally fine to charge what somebody can afford at first. And then we work our way up, and then we have to work a little bit less eventually, and we make a little bit more into nowadays. I paint about 2 to 3 days a week and make over $100,000 a year with my art, specifically with a paintbrush. And it's just a great place to be. But at first, I want to say I worked, oh boy, doing windows, doing just anything, pet portraits, doing a lot of $200, $500 jobs that took me, I want to say a $500 job took me 1 to 2 days. And I worked 6 to 7 days a week, and to eventually make $100,000 a year. And I ended up getting burnt out. And I've slowly made a transition of, okay, how do I attract the higher paying customers? How do I not attract the low budget customers? Because what's really tough to do is turn somebody down for a project that looks kind of fun, but they really don't have the budget for it. It's really tough for me. Even still, sometimes I'm like, oh, this person wants these, pink unicorns on the wall. Oh my gosh, that would be so fun. And their budget is $400. And I'm like, God, so I like to use some of this language that I'm going to get to, or we're going to get to it. And I'm going to show you and explain the difference between budget customers and luxury customers. But using language like this, it doesn't attract the budget customers. So I don't have to say no that often. This comes with a little recent experience that I knew what I was doing when I was doing it. Okay. For an example of a low budget post video like attraction, I have been thinking about making this video or some kind of post comparing wallpaper to murals. And I've done it in the past, like in like a post or whatever. And I showed a really simple mural that I had done. It was like black and white. It was something I could do in like probably 5 hours. And I charged a full day rate, which was, about like $1,000 or a little bit less, maybe like 800. And I've done this in the past and it has gotten me jobs. And so I've recommended it and it works. So this definitely works. And it's 100% true. If you make a post with a photo that showcases a mural that you did recently. So if you haven't done one, do one in your home, do one in your bathroom, basically something that's kind of like wallpaper, like a design or whatever. In my case, it was a mural that was on a white wall and I just used black paint and I made these leaf shapes and I made them all over the wall. And it, like I said, it didn't take very long, but I was able to customize it to the customer and make, instead of it being like a repeated pattern, like some wallpapers are, and somebody else could own that in their home, right? I made it customized, which is a good word to use, right? So I thought I was doing pretty good with this. I made it customized to the customer and I made some leaves at the bottom a lot bigger, some leaves at the top a lot smaller. And so it really there's no way a wallpaper could have done this, right? And it's a one of a kind, great. And I've made a post about this in the past comparing, hey, if you go pick out a wallpaper design and you have it professionally installed, it's going to cost over about $1,000 for a small room because wallpaper installation costs a lot. It's surprisingly a lot. And so by the time you're paying for it to be installed and to be like you pay for the actual wallpaper, that's a day rate for me. Like $1,000 is a day rate. And so I would promote that as like, hey, if you're thinking about wallpaper, you can get something custom for just as much, if not less, like blah, blah, blah. And I remember back in the day, somebody commented on it. They were like, that shouldn't be like you're creating something custom for somebody. Like it should be way more. And I remember thinking, yeah, you're probably right. But I know that this post is going to get me some jobs. And it did. Like there were several people who reached out that they looked into getting wallpaper and they just couldn't find what they wanted, or they saw the cost of it and they're like, oh my gosh. And I ended up doing several different things. I did a rose flower wall for somebody and quoted her $1,500 for the wall. And she was like, yeah, no, I've compared this to wallpaper, just like you said in your post and you're right, like this is comparable, but I want something a little bit more custom and I want you to do this. So it's totally worth it for me. And I was like, great, like this works. Like I've gotten so many jobs for this. You could definitely, it works. Where I go wrong with this, because I just did this, I did a full video comparing the cost of wallpaper to custom murals, and it got the attention of a local person and who reached out to me for something in her son's room. She's like, I want this. And I quoted her. It was something extremely simple. And I think I quoted her like $700. And it was just going to be something I went over and did in like 3 hours. Still really great hourly rate. Don't get me wrong. And I knew this girl from back then, like whenever ago. And I was like, yeah, I was super excited to do it, whatever. But I go over there and she's great and everything. And we talk about it. And by the time I get out of there, it's about 5 hours later because she had tweaked the design. It was in her home. She wanted it perfect. No big deal. I'm here to please. And then she wanted a little bit of something at the end. Like, okay, great. And then she ended up wanting me to come back and do another like 1 hour job for this and wanted like the same kind of a rate. And it became something to where I was like, this is it's just worth more than I'm getting paid for. And that's what happens when you put out budget talk and you get budget customers and they squeeze everything they can out of you and they ask for a little bit more. And it does take a little bit longer than you think more often than not. And then I'm just, in comparison from that to a $20,000 job that I just did, it's just the amount of communication I had with the customer is probably the same. The amount of time that I spent is obviously way more with the $20,000 job, but I get to spend way more time painting, which is what we want to do, right? We get to spend way more time actually painting the thing with the projects that are much bigger. And it's just more exciting. It's way more exciting to get a job that's paying a quality rate for a quality job and blah, blah, blah. Okay. So you get the idea. Okay. Now I'm going to go over some notes. These are things that you don't want to say whenever you are aiming for high paying customers. Okay. So for one, murals are cheaper than professionally installed wallpaper. Why is that not good? Because you're using the word cheaper and you're going to get all the people who shop on Shein, which I've done that for sure, but you're going to get all those people that come over and want to just like nickel and dime you, and really painting something in somebody's home that they're going to have to see every single day, they are way pickier. So focusing on wallpaper in general or something for somebody's home, I'm not saying to never do it. It's fun to do it every once in a while, but man, when I am painting something in somebody's home, like a kid's room or anything, a dining room, or that they're just like, can you change the color? And I don't blame them. I would be the same way. And I am the same way. I overpick everything that's in my home that I'm going to see every single day. We're doing a thing in our living room right now where we're installing shelving, and I had to think about how I wanted to install that shelving for a year. And then I had to put tape up. And then my poor husband goes and tries to install them. And I'm like, wait, hold on. Put one up. And then I got to see what it looks like. And then wait, no, this. And I'm just like picking it apart. And so I don't blame these customers, but painting for a business in general, having your language aimed towards painting a high quality mural for your business, like something like that, versus doing something in your home, you're probably going to get a lot less headache. And I am just way more for painting with businesses because of that aspect. Not to say I'll never do it. It's really fun to do kids' rooms and it's really hard for me to say no to them. But in general, painting for businesses, it's just way less of a headache for way more of a payout. Okay, moving on. This is a quick and expensive way to add color. Again, going around the cheap, inexpensive route. Also quick. I've found that people are impressed that I can paint really quickly. They really enjoy that I'm not hanging out for a long time in their home or their business. So that's definitely a perk. But sometimes quick can be perceived as not spending a whole lot of quality time or quantity time, right? You're getting in there, you're putting something on the wall. It's people are sometimes amazed at the speed that I can do things in, but it can easily be perceived as just cheap and quick. I feel like those words can kind of be interchangeable sometimes. And so I have to be really careful about saying, I can just come in and paint for a day. And by the way, I'm going to charge you $2,000. People are like, oh, okay. Like, depending, right? I mean, if I went to my hometown and the population 300 and something and said, okay, I'm going to come paint for a day, that'll be $2,000. Like, it would be the talk of the town. Be like, can you believe her? Like, so we don't even want to be in that area. We want to be with people who are used to charging things or getting invoices for hundreds and thousands of dollars, right? And then aren't even going to think twice about it. And they're going to love that you can come in and do it quickly because they are on a timeline and their store is opening or they have a renovation to do and like they want you in and out and they appreciate the efficiency of it. So maybe instead of saying, I can paint something quickly or I'll just come in and quickly do it, efficient is a really good word to use that instead. Okay, next one. I can beat other artists' prices. Don't do that. When I see promotions for, things online, and we've all seen it, right? Things that are like, we can beat another ad. It's usually something in like couponing. We don't want to create that kind of not even just like a brand around that's similar to couponing, right? But even just trying to beat out other artists and lower the price, that doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help you. Lowering the price and trying to beat someone out in terms of price is never the option. So I'm just going to stop there and just say that. That's never the option. Never say, I can do it cheaper than anyone else in the area. People will be like other artists in our industry be like, cool, thanks. Another one is like murals starting as low as $300 or as low as X amount. I don't think that, again, it's just talking about your bottom dollar, right? It's mural starting as low as $500. Instead of focusing on the as low as or as cheap as or cheaper than, start with something that's, instead of price, say something about an investment in your building. It's going to elevate the value of this. Instead of saying something that's like the cheapest thing that there can be, it's going to be so quick and easy. Think of it as, something that's custom artwork that is designed to transform your space, something like that. Okay, another one is, I'll make it work for you no matter what your budget is. And I am so guilty of doing this. On one end, this is really good for if you want to put things on your calendar, right? This is really good for if you're somebody who can just go up to a wall and the customer isn't picky and you can just go and slap paint on the wall and it looks really good, but you don't need to have like a meticulous process behind it, right? I've interviewed artists and I know other artists who they have a full creative process and it takes them days to come up with a really good idea. And then they want to sketch it out beautifully and then they want to paint it. And that whole process is worth so much. And you don't want to devalue your full process. However, if you're somebody who, like I said, can just walk up to a wall and do it, and you'd rather not do the full like creative immersion that some artists like to do because art to them is meaningful. They like to do it in their style. If you're somebody that's like, yeah, sure, I can just do it. I'm an artist for hire. By all means, do this, because I think I like to tell people something like, yeah, we can do something that is for $2,000 that is really simple, but it'll catch somebody's eye. Or if you want to go all out and make something just absolutely beautiful that stuns, that's shared on social media, that's in the $10,000 to $15,000 area. So, it can be there. And so that's something that I like to say, like to get their budget out of them. And so when I wrote down, I'll make it work for you no matter what your budget is, that's a way of saying that. I think I just want to get away from the idea of like, if their budget is $300, that's not where we want to be. If their budget is like under $1,000 and you know that this is going to take so much time, I think just skip on that. No, don't even like say, oh, yeah, no, I can make it work for you. It's okay. We can just do something super simple. Really try to, just explain your process and explain how much time it goes into this and explain the benefits of having something that is well thought out, that is going to cost a little bit more, but it's going to last. It's going to be quality. It's going to make people remember your store. It's going to just something you're going to have to look at. It's going to last. It's going to all the things. Like there's definitely ways you can talk your way up in it instead of just saying, oh, you have $500. I can work with that. Okay, moving on to some of the luxury terms here. So wording that positions you as a premium creative professional. And again, if you don't feel like you are at this premium creative professional level yet, I'm not really a big advocate on like fake it till you make it in a way, but I am an advocate for you can start to use some of these and really take your time in order to make it the best that you can. Or for anybody who's just getting into this, then have some of these in your back pocket. And like I said, just start to slowly implement some of these in the areas that you feel confident in. But if you don't feel confident with it yet, just get experience. Do the budget stuff. It doesn't matter. We're just here. We want to pay our bills with our arts and eventually grow it. And I think just starting low is how you go high eventually. But number one, custom art designed to transform your space, or custom murals designed to transform your space. Luxury murals that elevate environments and leave lasting impressions. One-of-a-kind hand-painted murals tailored exclusively to your brand. This reminds me, I went to buy a car it was probably 5 years ago or so. And I was car shopping I started out car shopping for something that I was always so used to, which was just like, buy the budget car, something that's going to get you from A to B. I needed something that could fit gallons of paint. And I was going all around. And then so my husband and I were out shopping, and he's definitely a salesman, right? He sells insurance. He knows the sales techniques. He's been in it for 20 years, right? And so as we were car shopping, we slowly went to the more luxury cars. We started out like looking at Chevy and like looking at this and that, even in some of the used car sections. And I was like, what does buying a new car even look like? Like I'm doing pretty well. Can I do this? And he was like, let's go look at them. And so we went over to Lexus and BMW just to see, and I do not recommend doing that if you are shopping for a car and you really don't care all that much what you get, but because as soon as you sit in a BMW, everything else just seems subpar. It was really hard to go back, but I drove a Lexus that was really nice, had a bunch of trunk space, drove a BMW. And as we were talking to the sales guys, so the car salesmen at all of these lots, my husband was like, you can really tell the difference in the luxury car salesmen who even the colors that they use to describe the cars, it's not white, it's pearl. It's not great gas mileage. It's luxury. It was just all of these words were just different. And I didn't really notice because I just don't pick up on small things like that, especially at that point. And my husband pointed it out. He's like, yeah, these guys definitely, they don't talk about, the monthly cost as much. They just talk about how you're going to feel in this, what are you going to do with this? What is the overall feeling of the car, the perks of the like hidden cup holder, the like seats that warm in 20 seconds. They were talking about a lot of the fun features that came with it, all the fun stuff, the leather, the little, even like I ended up buying a Jeep, right? And love it. Still love it. We actually got it used. It was like 30,000 miles on it. And I saw it and loved it. I opened it. It had, it's this Trailhawk version. So it's like an elevated one in it. So after sitting in the BMW, I was like, oh no, this like Trailhawk Jeep Grand Cherokee, I was like, okay, this compares. I really loved it and I still love it. I'm going to drive it into the ground and I'm probably going to have to because I've spilled paint in the back of it so much, but it's okay. It's just paint. I'm just going to paint over it if I ever decide to sell it. But I just remember like seeing it and the Trailhawk version of it, rather than just getting the standard, it had little like red stitching all around it. And just like it has snow mode. It has rock mode. So just in case I need to go over rocks and in the snow, and just like all these little features that were really cool to have. And my husband just got a really nice car recently, and it's this like GMC, I don't even know what it is, but it's really huge and it has like full on TVs in the back. And it's just like the little perks. Also, like the driver's side seat and the passenger side seat has built-in massagers on the chair. I was like, is this necessary? He's like, absolutely. And so when you get up into those luxury, and it's so different because I have spent my time, okay? I've spent my days buying the car that's going to get me from A to B, and it doesn't matter, and it doesn't have remote start, and it doesn't have all of this and that, and it's constantly, it has a flat tire or whatever. And so I am so appreciative to be in this area of having something that has, the fun little perks. And it's just, yeah. But so it's the same thing with your art, with your murals. We start out just like putting things out, getting the practice, but then after a while, you get to have these conversations with customers that's like, oh, I can add this, or I see that your branding has this and this colors. Maybe we can add this added feature into here, and where we make a really lifelike, or we shadow it just right to where it looks like it really pops off the wall. That's not something that you can do whenever you're just starting out, right? Typically, anyway. But once you become a better painter and you can better figure out what your customer wants, we get better at that too. It's not just being a better painter. You give the customer a better experience by knowing what questions to ask. You buy the better paint. You're not getting the cheapest stuff at Sherwin-Williams. You're getting the stuff that's really going to last. You know how to apply it. You know how to do it, I don't want to say quickly, but efficiently, so that you're not taking forever, which actually usually saves on lift costs. So, but it's just, you give a way more quality product. So when you're at this quality product level, let's talk about it in a way that is quality. And I'm constantly having to just remind myself of that. And I mean, I've even had conversations with people before, and they're like, what are you doing? Like, you've painted in Europe, charge what you're worth. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess so. But it's just so tough when somebody wants to lowball you and get you down in that way. And it's not like an emotional get you down, but it's just like it's just tough. And so using phrases like this helps to attract those people who see the quality and value in you. Okay. Another one, a permanent investment in your space's identity and value. High impact statement pieces that capture attention and admiration. Ooh. Museum quality finishes with durability that lasts for decades. So these are things that you could put if you have a brochure, if you want to put this on your website, if you want to put this in your pitch deck, pitching with emails, or just in talking with customers, just saying some of these phrases over and over and over again. And I'm going to put all of these in the podcast description, just to get your brain in a way of thinking in the form of quality rather than, I hope they can afford me. Another one, each design is created in collaboration with you, ensuring a truly bespoke result. Ooh, not just like, hey, I'm going to listen to what you want and I'm going to put it on a wall. It's like, let's collaborate. Let's make it bespoke. I actually had to look up what the bespoke meant before. I was like, I think I have an idea, but let me just like look up the word exactly so I feel confident saying what that is. Transform your blank walls into landmark destinations. This is what I think of whenever I'm applying for art calls, really. And a city wants something that's going to just showcase the city. I think of that as a landmark destination, just like a big sculpture that's been there for 100 years. That's a landmark. I think of that in the same way as when I'm applying to these art calls. with these cities and I use some of this wordage as well. Like, I want to transform your wall into a landmark destination that's memorable within the communities for generations, things like that. I create immersive, large-scale art experiences that inspire and impress. This isn't just paint on a wall. It's an asset that adds cultural and financial value to your property. Okay, so I have a little thing right here and then we'll wrap it up. But instead of saying cheap, say accessible entry point if you must talk about lower price. Instead of affordable, say scalable depending on your vision. Instead of decorate, say transform or elevate. And instead of price, say investment. And that's all I have for you today. I'm going to get off my half soapbox and I'm going to work on this too. And I hope that you do as well, because unless you're born into privilege, it doesn't come natural and it can actually hold us back. And I am in constant thought of how I can better my art, better my business, and not hold myself back. Because I think about this quite often is that I set my prices and people pay that. And it's a little bit in turn of what the market will pay in your area, but it's also I'm valuing myself as an artist and the quality of product that I have. I'm setting that value. And so why not set it for higher? Why not try it out? You can always go back down. You can always do hey, I don't have anything going on this week, or I'm doing percentage off. You can always do that. But why not just up level it and see what happens? And a lot of it usually takes consistency, right? And really turning down those lesser ones. But eventually you work up and you get the language and you get the confidence to really ask for what you're worth. And eventually it works. So other than the recent, very small, like interior, like $700 job that I just said, other than that, I've done really good this year about it. And every once in a while it sneaks in and I just do a budget thing here and there. And I think that's totally fine, right? Because I didn't really have a whole lot on my calendar, but keeping consistent with it, I've gotten recently some really big jobs. I just landed a $17,000 job and I'm so excited for it. And if my calendar was full of $500, $800 jobs here and there, and it would have added so much more stress for me to add that $17,000 job that they want done right away, that they're paying for quality. And I'm so glad that I really stuck it out. And I said no to a lot of budget projects. And now that I can do this quality project for the amount that it's worth, and I get to have fun with it. And it's exciting. And I hope the same for you. So thanks for watching or listening to another episode of the Artist Academy podcast. I will see you next week.